Police department.
Hey, I just got home and walked in the front door, and I don't know if the house has been broke into or what. The table's been knocked over.
Okay, let's back up just a little bit.
I can't find my husband.
Okay, who are you?
Cindy, Henderson Reese.
Cindy Reese?
Uh-huh.
The voice that you're currently listening to belongs to a 40-year-old woman by the name of Cindy Reese, claiming that she had just arrived home, discovering her house had been broken into and possibly burglarized, and that she is unable to locate her husband, 40-year-old Michael Reese. The police quickly arrive on the scene and do a quick search through the house. They find the hallway, living room, and kitchen a complete mess. They also find Michael Reese face down near the back door, surrounded in blood and a single gunshot wound to the back of his head. Initially, police believed that this was likely a robbery gone wrong due to the condition that the house was found in. However, there was a large amount of doubt surrounding this theory, due to a lack of missing items. Cindy stated that almost everything was still at the house except for a few pieces of jewelry. Immediately following this, the police asked Cindy to attend them at the Morris Police Department for an interview.
First off, what do you know about what's happened at the house as far as has anybody told you that Michael's gone?
They told me he had been shot, but they pretty much just kept asking me, what happened when I got there. And they told me he had been shot, but I didn't know. I mean, they never did really.
He's I understand. When they get you a tissue or anything, that's I'm so sorry.
I just saw the mess and grabbed the landline, the cordless phone.
Right. Did you holler for Michael?
I did holler for Michael.
Did he have any enemies?
Don't know. I really don't know.
According to Cindy, this is how the day went. The two woke up and headed to work. Michael finished work a little bit earlier than Cindy, so when Mike's shift ended, he drove to Cindy's workplace to pick her up. They then stopped at Cindy's mother's house to say hello, before heading home to cook dinner. When they arrived at home, Cindy noticed that they were low on a few important grocery items, and so she headed straight back out, this time by herself, to the local Piggly Wiggly. She purchased the grocery items that she needed, and then she headed straight back home. This is when Cindy discovered the house in horrible condition and dialed 911. Investigators decided to look deeper into this story. However, it would take some time for the forensics team to uncover anything potentially incriminating or able to clear her as a suspect. And so the police took this story in stride and also continued looking into the potential burglary gone wrong theory. If this really was a burglary gone wrong, there were two suspects immediately on the radar. The first was a contractor that recently helped do some work to the house. Officers believed that this contractor had maybe noticed an object of value in the home and that he felt inclined to steal. Or he was simply just unhappy with the treatment that he received from Mike and Cindy. The other potential suspect was a 36-year-old man named Jeffrey Brown. Jeff was a pastor at the same church that both Cindy and Michael attended, the Sardis Baptist Church. Jeff had actually followed Cindy to this church after meeting the two at another church a couple years earlier. Although Jeff was a pastor, Jeff's behavior throughout the town wasn't looked at so fondly. Jeff and Cindy had been witnessed kissing and fondling each other while inside their vehicles by many different town residents. Cindy's husband Mike had actually caught wind of this affair, and in the months before his murder, Mike and Cindy had gone on a trip to Disneyland in Florida in an attempt to rekindle their relationship and move past the infidelity. This didn't appear to go as Mike had hoped, as Cindy told the officers during her interview that she and Jeff were still seeing each other.
Let me ask you, did it make it easier because you were in love with Jeff to let your relationship with Michael fall to the side, or?
No.
Okay.
I had a lot of guilt.
But when I was talking to you before, okay, and we were talking about Jeff, your face would actually light up. Your forehead would lose the tension in your face. Your hands were not up at your face, okay? you were having fond memories of that, okay? Then when you would talk about Michael, and your forehead would wrinkle up a little bit, and there would be a little tension in your face. And deservedly so, because of what's been going on in your life, okay? But the biggest thing is when we started talking about getting home from church, you wanted to cover your face, you wanted to cover your eyes, you wanted to cover your mouth. Do you know why? Because you saw something that hurts you. You didn't want to see it. You didn't want to talk about it. And before, I don't even know if you remember, but before you said you went out to go to the pig, you almost started crying. Because you knew exactly when and what happened, and it terrifies you. It terrified you. You know. So again, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry that this has happened. But will you talk to me and tell me what happened?
According to Cindy, she was slowly falling out of love with Michael, as he was not really interested in spending time with her, as he was interested in playing video games. But Jeff was different. Jeff seemed kind, interested, and there when she needed him. Despite claims from Morris locals about the sightings of Jeff and Cindy displaying some affection in their vehicles, Cindy stated that this was all a misunderstanding and that their relationship was strictly emotional until the two left the church. Then it became physical. As it turns out, about a month before the murder, Cindy herself just quit going. But Pastor Jeff was actually fired due to the piling claims about him which seemed to contradict his duties at the church. And so, the police took all of this information and decided to question Jeffrey Brown as well.
How long have you known Cindy? Where did y'all meet?
I was the pastor candidate at Sardis Baptist Church back in August of 2013.
She was the
Worship minister, worship leader.
That be the
Minister of music, the music director, yeah.
Music director. Okay. Was she with Michael at that point in time?
Yes.
Or was she already married?
Yes.
Jeff, too, would reinforce the claims that he and Cindy had been in a strictly emotional relationship until they both left the church. He would then provide an alibi, stating that he was actually nowhere near the town that evening and actually 50 miles away. He would state that he was aware that Mike knew about the affair and that he believed there was no bad blood at the time of this murder. Regardless of any of the statements made by Jeff, investigators were already starting to piece things together, and he and Cindy were both becoming the prime suspects.
Would you admit, or would you say that his curiosity or his suspicions were warranted? See, I mean, of course they were. So, you know, again, if he was going to be as lenient as he was, you know, that would be, you know, again, his suspicions were warranted, so.
After looking even further into the way that the crime scene was discovered, as well as after receiving any results from the forensics team, the nail was almost in the coffin. The house was found completely ransacked, but in a seemingly strategic way. Though some items were thrown around and flipped over, there wasn't anything of actual value that was found destroyed. Almost as if the owner of these items was setting up the house to look this way. There was also only 3 pieces of jewelry missing, all belonging to Cindy. Even the initial 911 call was redissected and felt slightly bizarre.
Hey, I just got home and walked in the front door, and I don't know if the house has been broke into or what. The table's been knocked over.
Okay, let's back up just a little bit.
My husband.
This is that table. And if Cindy were to look directly to her left, she would see this: Mike lying face down at the end of the hallway. Investigators even looked into Cindy's reasoning for going to the Piggly Wiggly. She stated that she was out of specific items. However, those exact items were found in the fridge. During the search of Cindy's office, as well as her financials, they first found a photo of her and her husband, slightly above a photo of her and Jeff. They also found a series of payments made by Cindy for an apartment occupied by Jeff. And apparently, Mike had made statements during the month before his murder that he was afraid of this other man, Jeff, due to a co-worker telling him that Jeff had offered somebody money to murder him. On top of all of this, when investigators looked into Cindy's phone records, they found a text from Jeff around the time that Cindy had headed to the Piggly Wiggly. That text said, "Keep me posted." They then found a phone call from Cindy that went to Jeff's phone during the time of the murder, and apparently, Cindy had placed this call and then hid the phone so Jeff could listen in. They also found this little tidbit, which is actually a recording of Cindy speaking while her call to 911 was still ringing.
Someone's almost dead.
Investigators then looked into Jeff's phone GPS history as well. This proved that Jeff was not 50 miles away, as he previously stated. Instead, he was actually about a stone's throw away from the home of Cindy and Mike. Just 1 month after this, Cindy and Jeff were driving down the highway when they were pulled over and arrested by the police. They were both charged with the first-degree murder of Michael Reese. Both Cindy and Jeff decided to plead not guilty, and so pretrial proceedings began to take place. They were both being held on a $100,000 bond. Cindy promptly paid for herself, but she did not provide Jeff with any financial assistance. So, Jeff decided fairly quickly that he was going to flip on Cindy. Jeff made a deal with prosecutors to plead guilty to manslaughter and tell investigators every detail of what happened that evening from his perspective. And so, that's exactly what he did.
Eunice, Jeff Brown was named senior pastor here at Sordis Baptist Church about 3 years ago. Now, he only served for about a year, but while he was here, he baptized Michael Reese in that sanctuary. Now, Brown is headed to prison for his role in Reese's murder.
Cindy's trial then began in November of 2016, about a year following the murder, and this was the prosecution's theory. Cindy had been attempting to figure out a way out of her relationship for some time. They stated that after Cindy was picked up from work by Mike, that the two headed straight home. When they entered the home, Mike continued towards the back door to let their dogs inside, and as he bent down to say hello to the dogs, Cindy delivered the kill shot to the back of his head. She then staged the home to look ransacked, and then drove to meet up with Jeff, who had been waiting nearby to collect the murder weapon and the missing pieces of jewelry that Cindy had taken from the house. She then stopped at the Piggly Wiggly to pick up a few items and establish an alibi, and then she headed home and placed the 911 call. The prosecution had Jeff testify during Cindy's trial to all of these claims. Cindy's defense tried to frame this entire story as if it was a lie coming from a spiteful ex-boyfriend, stating that when Cindy did not bail him out of prison, he manufactured a story that would protect himself in some ways while also completely incriminating her. The jury deliberated over the case for only an hour and a half, and Cindy Reese was found guilty for the first-degree murder of Michael Reese.
Her mother headed to prison for decades for her husband's murder. Today, a judge sentenced Cindy Reese for her role in a fatal love triangle. WVTM 13 reporter John Papke shares what the punishment means to the victim's family.
Sitting in shackles this morning, Cindy Reese faced a judge awaiting her punishment. 2 years ago, her husband Michael Reese was gunned down in the couple's Morris home. Last month, a jury convicted his wife Cindy in his death. Today, Reese received 40 years in prison. When her husband was murdered, she and former pastor Jeff Brown were having an affair. Prosecutors argued the murder was the casualty of a tragic love triangle.
Cindy Reese's first parole consideration will be in the year 2030.